So let's say hypothetically that someone is at risk now of being sued. Somebody wants to take them to court. How do you say to them that you want to get mediation instead?
Mm. Well, I guess we also need to gently explore some of the threats inherent in going to court. It can be a really scary and distressing experience,
Mm.
a very public one as well for certain cases, and you're really leaving your future to a judge or a jury. So I guess to encourage someone to think about mediation, we would let them know that it's a safer option and that we will recognize their distress, the distress coming out of the conflict, but also the distress about the procedure. How will this ever reach its end? And what we will want to do is reassure them that they'll be taken seriously if we let them know that in mediation, they will be really heard deeply, not just their case, but their underlying fears, their emotions. And I guess also we've got the scope within mediation. I mean, I wouldn't often say this to someone directly, but I guess, again, inspired by your work, there's the kind of space to explore how someone's background and even their childhood has impacted how they've responded to what's going on. We've got the scope within mediation. I mean, I wouldn't often say this to someone directly, but I guess, again, inspired by your work, there's the kind of space to explore how someone's background and even their childhood has impacted how they've responded to what's going on.
How long does it typically take?
A mediation.
Is there
well, there used to be this idea that you would do a mediation in a day. And my processes are much longer because I think mediation is, in many ways, it can be a therapeutic process. Certainly the rebuilding of trust between individuals is not something that happens overnight, is it? And you need little small wins, little boosts of dopamine where you know you've made progress. So I allow it time. It depends how many people are involved, but I think it takes a good couple of months. And some of those meetings will be one-to-one with the mediator, and others, when people are ready and not before, will be joint meetings with the party that they're in dispute with.
Okay.
So,
and can I ask you what if you're in a dispute with someone and you really have no intention of getting into the legal system, but you're just frustrated with someone and you want to say to them, let's get a mediator to work this out? Is it used for that, like where there's no thought of court at all? And how would you bring that up to someone that you want to get a mediator?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's a really important aspect. Conflicts can go on, or disagreements, disputes can go on and on because people think that a court couldn't sort it out, and you get very entrenched positions. But it so impacts on people's lives. People become estranged from each other, or they, the conflict kind of takes on a life of its own, and people sleep with, the conflict in their heads. So I think, there's a wonderful bit. I'm going to turn to your book, if I may.
Sure.
While you're Habits looking, of a Happy Brain.
Sure. While you're looking, I'll just mention that I'm thinking of the classic one where you have two neighbors. It sounds like a movie, two neighbors are always hating each other.
Yeah, I do a lot of neighbor disputes, absolutely. And they get the police involved. I had a case where each neighbor had called the police 100 times. 100 times. And they had explicitly verbally made death threats against each other. And no one could really do anything. And I think, people get very stuck and they get very entrenched. And you talk about some of the obstacles to people finding happiness and eliminating unhappiness. And I think these really relate to conflict and the resolution of conflict. So a few are, you write, people say, we say, I can't lower my standards. That's a real reason why someone will say, I can't go to mediation because I know that I'm right. So I'm not, they think mediation is compromise. Or they say, I shouldn't have to do this. They're wrong. Why should I have to do anything?
Yep.
Another one you write, and I think this is so touching. You say there's this thought that we have, it's selfish to focus on your own happiness. And that for me is that people forget that it's okay for them to let this go, to find a solution and to reclaim their own lives. And then I suppose the last one of your finding, obstacles is I'll be happy when. So the classic thing within the framework I see is someone will say, I will be happy when you, or I will be happy when my neighbor, completely giving agency to the other person to bring them or deny them happiness. So I think it's exploring for a person, what do you want? What would life look like for you if this conflict had gone? And for many people, they can no longer see a way through. So I might describe, help them to envisage life if they could let it go, and if they can let in the good. And this is right, I think you have this in your tools right at the end of Habits of a Happy Brain. People have often, if they've been in very difficult circumstances, and many of my clients have been experiencing stressful times, like they've been carers, or they've lost their homes, or they've been threatened with eviction. So they've forgotten how to let the good in. So we might talk about, often I will mirror with them what it might look like to feel happy, or help them find balance, or help them consider what they might save their energy for. And those are the ways that I would encourage them to start a process.
That's great.
And I worked with other people with lived experiences of mental ill health, and we wrote plays which were used to train up psychologists, psychiatrists, psychologists, police officers, social workers in what it was like to experience mental ill health. And I worked particularly in the field of sort of criminal justice. So here in the UK, we were at this time experiencing a lot of people being arrested when they were experiencing mental health crisis and being treated as criminals. So that was part of our mission. And from there, I moved into working in health and social care in various different ways. I was a teacher for a while, and that was part of my journey.
Okay. I had the impression, or maybe it's in this country, a lot of the people in it are lawyers because they're sort of drained by the aggressiveness of being a lawyer, and then they find that this is a more pleasant way to deal with it. Do you hear of a lot of lawyers going into this?
Into mediation?
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think particularly there's a kind of flick of a switch that happens for people who work in litigation. They think, oh my goodness, we could do this a better way. That's so much less distressing. So there's plenty of people are in the mediation field are lawyers, and then a kind of good dose aren't as well. It's a mixture.
Okay. Yeah, and I should mention the reason I'm interested in this. When I was an undergraduate, I went to a school where a lot of the people went from that school to law school. So it was sort of considered preparation for law school. And I had no interest in law school at all. And then at the very end, I heard about this and I thought, that would be something I would like to do. But by then I was already in another track. But it was always something that I thought was interesting. And I certainly had conflict. And I like the idea that it's limited and concrete, and it's not just about treatment, but it's something that limited and concrete results.